So everyone's making a big deal out of this. So about a month ago, Katie Halper had on Tara Reid on her podcast, and she made the accusations. She seemed super credible. We have corroborating people who corroborate her story, her neighbor, her brother, her mother on Larry King. And so Chris Hayes, who looks sad that he has to, he's doing this from home, I think. He looks sad. I don't think he has a makeup person. He really does look sad, doesn't he? Anyway, but he covered it yesterday. So let me play a little bit of his coverage.
Throughout the entire Me Too era, there have been moments, I think for many of us, all of us, when we have heard about accusations against someone that we find ourselves desperately wanting not to believe. Whether that is because we have some personal admiration for the individual or their work, or political admiration, someone on our quote-unquote side. But part of the difficult lesson of the Me Too era is not that every accusation is true and everything should be believed on its face, but that you do have to fight yourself when you feel that impulse. You have to do that in order to take seriously what is being alleged and what the evidence is, and to.
I didn't know that's what that hashtag means, that you have to fight. I didn't know that's what it meant. That's another definition of it. I didn't know.
Part of the lesson of the Me Too era is not that every accusation is true. And
you're okay.
Really? I thought that was the lesson. I thought that was the lesson. That's why it was so scary, because there was no way to ever fight back. If a woman said something, that was it. You had to believe them. And now he's saying that's not what they were saying. That is what they were saying. But let's listen to it again.
It's not that every accusation is true and everything should be believed on its face, but.
No, that was it. That was it. Am I wrong, Steph? What was your interpretation of what hashtag Me Too believe all women was? Wasn't it that you believe all women? He's saying that's not what it was.
Well, yes, because that is pushing back, because women historically have not been.
So what did
believed.
you think it meant?
I agree
What?
with your position.
What did you think
that
it
we
meant?
are supposed to believe what
Right.
they, yes.
And now
I'm agreeing with it.
And now he's changing it.
Yes.
Part of the difficult lesson of the Me Too era is not that every accusation is true and everything should be believed on its face.
He's just changing it. Okay, just so you know, he's changing it. I mean, okay, I don't know why he gets to do that, but he's doing it.
But that you do have to fight yourself when you feel that impulse. You have to do that in order to take seriously what is being alleged and what the evidence is, and to evaluate it.
He's making that up. He's making that part up. He goes on to cover the story, which is everybody's making a big deal out of it, and that's why I'm covering it. But he's making that part up. If I'm wrong, correct. He's making that up.
And that is the case with the accusation by a woman named Tara Reid against Joe Biden. Reid briefly worked as a Senate aide in Biden's office in the early 90s. Last year, she told a California newspaper that in 1993, Joe Biden, quote, touched her several times, making her feel uncomfortable. Now, at that time, Reid was one of several women who came forward around that moment with accusations against the former vice president of inappropriate sort of over physicalness, touching, kissing, or hugging that they say made them feel uncomfortable. Then last month, she made a much more serious allegation, telling first a podcast and later the New York Times that in 1993, Joe Biden pinned her to a wall in a Senate building, reached under her clothing, and penetrated her with his fingers. Reid told the Times that she filed a complaint with the Senate that same year about what happened with Biden. Quote, she said she did not have a copy of it and such paperwork has not been located. Now, Reid also said she complained to Biden's executive assistant, as well as to two top aides about harassment by Mr. Biden, not mentioning the alleged assault. All three of those people who were interviewed by the Times deny having any memory of a complaint. A spokeswoman for Joe Biden says the allegation is false, and they have strongly denied it. This week, there was also a new development in the story, and that is that Tara Reid's former neighbor at the time went on the record with her name telling Business Insider that in 1995 or 1996, a few years after this, that Reid told her she had been assaulted by Biden. NBC News reached out to Reid's neighbor, who later confirmed by text message the story. This on-the-record reporting from a neighbor roughly...
All right, so now, so this is it. He covered it. So that's the point. So he covers it. He doesn't cover it in a sensational way. He makes up some shit at the beginning. That's not true. about what the lessons of hashtag Me Too were. And so now a lot of people are lauding him for doing this. Oh, gutsy. And you know what? I'm going to say there's no way he did this without his executive producer knowing he's doing this. This was okayed. So this was okayed. This was not Chris Hayes doing something against what his bosses were. They all knew that hey, we're going to have to address this now, especially since the New York Times came out and corrected Stacey Abrams and the Biden campaign when they were saying that New York Times debunked this accusation, and the New York Times came out and said, we did not. And so now it's being covered in the Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN. And so now MSNBC says, go ahead, Chris, you can cover it. So that's what this is. This isn't Chris Hayes being courageous at all. And let's remember, Chris Hayes was the person who wagged his finger at Susan Sarandon like it was her fault that we have Trump instead of his network, and him, who didn't cover Bernie Sanders, weren't allowed to cover Bernie Sanders, fired Ed Schultz for covering Bernie Sanders. He never said a word about any of that stuff. Why? Because he's not courageous. And he's a go-along. And he'll do this if they let him. And he told this story because they let him. Why do you think Chris Hayes showed Donald Trump's empty podium for an entire hour instead of Bernie Sanders' victory speech? Why do you think that happened? Because he's a tool. He doesn't have any courage. And he'll willfully take the $30,000 a day and do whatever fucking Phil Griffin tells him to. And the only reason he was allowed to do this is because Phil Griffin said it was okay. And you're going to, you're going to see a lot of people tweeting that Chris is courageous. And he's been consistently courageous. He's been consistently nothing. He's been consistently nothing. When does he call out his own goddamn network? For lying about Syria? He's still, by the way, tweeting out bullshit about Syria. He still lies about the gas attacks, Chris Hayes, just so you know. You know that website that's funded by the State Department to write smear pieces against anti-war people like me? He tweets them out. Chris Hayes does. So Chris Hayes is garbage. He's a corporate tool. Have you read Manufacturing Consent? Do you know what his job is? Do you know he does his job? His job isn't to inform you. His job is to manufacture consent. You know he does it, right? And if you're a journalist tweeting out accolades of fucking Chris Hayes, shame on you. Well, that's all we need. You're probably a Russiagator, too. You're probably a fucking mindless Russiagator. You probably push lies about Syria and gas attacks and Assad shit. You probably mouth CIA talking points all day long. And that's the kind of people who are complimenting Chris Hayes on what he did today or yesterday. You think he really bucked his bosses? Now who's being naive, Kay? And so MSNBC has cultivated. Well, here's what Glenn Greenwald says. Because now people want him fired. Now people want people who are MSNBC viewers, diehard Russiagators, Susan Sarandon haters, regular viewers of MSNBC. Now they want Chris Hayes fired. Here's one of them. Here's Palmer report. He says, hey, Chris Hayes, you ran such a dishonest story about Joe Biden tonight. Hashtag fire Chris Hayes is starting to trend. Let's say we make it trend all the way. Hayes needs to retract the story or go do something else for a living. These are the kind of people Chris Hayes normally broadcasts to. Well, here's what Glenn Greenwald says. Glenn gets it, as he always does. He nails it. He says, Chris Hayes has been one of the media's most virulent, relentless, and arguably effective Trump critics. and all-consuming loathing for the president. But hashtag Fire Chris Hayes was trending because he covered the sex assault allegations against Biden. Shows what MSNBC has cultivated. And Chris Hayes is part of that cultivation. Chris Hayes has also cultivated these people who now call for his cancellation. Yes, his virulent hatred for President Trump has made him such a shitty journalist that he won't even invite Glenn Greenwald on to debunk his Russiagate conspiracy theory. You know how many times he invited Glenn Greenwald on to debunk it? 0. You know how many times he invited Aaron Matei on to debunk it? 0. You know how many times he called Kyle Kalinske on to come on the show to debunk it? 0. He should have brought me on to debunk it so he could have humiliated me because he's 10 times smarter than me and then said, see, these guys are all stupid. But his boss wouldn't let him. So Glenn is 100% correct. This is the audience that Chris Hayes and MSNBC has cultivated. This is the audience Chris Hayes cultivates when he shows Trump's empty podium and not Bernie Sanders' acceptance speech, victory speech. This is the kind of audience he cultivates when he does Russiagate at the top of his lungs. This is the kind of audience that Chris Hayes cultivates when he trashes anti-war truth tellers and pushes CIA talking points. That's who Chris Hayes is. And people giving him credit, I'm here to wake you up. And there you go. So that's what I think about Chris Hayes. You know what I think about him. I think he should wag his finger at Elizabeth Warren while he shows Trump's empty podium for an hour. So what do you think, Steph?
Well, I think it's funny that anybody would ever describe a network news host as courageous. That's funny to me. Lester Holt, courageous. Brian Williams, courageous. Are these people really breaking stories that are courageous? Right? And so, to me, that it's funny that people say hashtag fire Chris Hayes. These are the people that like Chris Hayes, except when he talks about Joe Biden, the flavor of the Democratic Party.
I know. That's his normal audience. And I didn't know, wow, I didn't know Glenn watched Chris Hayes' show that much to know that he's one of the media's most virulent, relentless, and arguably effective Trump critics. If Russiagate is effective. So there you go. That's my Chris Hayes segment. Oh, that's my Chris Hayes segment.
Throughout the entire...
He does look sad. Is he doing this at his house? Is he in the studio? What do you think? I think either maybe he's in the studio, but they just don't have a makeup person anymore, which is why his hair looks like that.
He and Lester Holt look like they're not in a studio venue.
Like they're in front of a green screen at their house.
Yeah, but I can't quite figure it out. But the lighting is definitely not his typical lighting.
It's definitely he's not typical Chris Hayes. He really looks sad there. You know, as you get older, your smile, your resting face, I've noticed. I remember I used to, you start smiling upside down. See this? And then your resting face, like I'll do this. You know how Tucker Carlson has his concerned face when he's listening? So I have a resting face that is not good. People put it on thumbnails for videos. And I'm not even going to do it.
Okay, good.
I'm not even going to do it.
Okay.
But it's where I get this upside down, like a frown. I get a frown. That's what an upside down smile is. It's a frown. And that's like, because everything just starts sagging. Okay, so I'm glad but it's just hilarious to watch people. Oh, Chris Hayes has been consistently the best person in the world on MSNBC, blah, blah, blah. What the fuck? It's like being the skinniest kid at fat camp. What the fuck? It's not, go, what? Chris Hayes has been great. Do you know what people on cable news are doing? They're manufacturing consent. Full stop. That's what they're doing. On cable news, they're manufacturing consent. Full stop. And Russiagate is the overarching narrative that allows all the other nefarious shit to happen. And Chris, I wish you would have brought me on to have another point of view on that. You know how many people Chris Hayes brought on to debate Russiagate? 0. Why? Because he's ordered not to. You know why Chris Hayes never covers Gaza? Oh, no, wait. He did for 3 minutes. He covered Gaza for 3 minutes in 2 years. 3 minutes. And people were like, did you see it? Did you see what he said? He was allowed to say it. He was allowed to do a 3-minute segment in 2 years on Gaza. So it's funny to see, I don't know if you see people, the blue check people on Twitter, patting Chris Hayes on the back for covering a story that's been a story for a fucking month.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a story for a fucking month. And now after the New York Times and the Washington Post cover it and CNN, now Chris Hayes covers it. And they're like, oh, fuck Chris Hayes. That guy, he's a truth teller. Anybody telling you Chris Hayes is a truth teller is a fucking moron and not to be listened to. They're probably big Russiagators. And they're probably big Hillary voters. They're people who probably couldn't see through Elizabeth Warren. Yeah. It just, the journalism, even online, even the independent, they're so horrible almost all the time. It's so easy to outdo them. It is so easy to outdo them. Because I'm not looking for a job in journalism. I'm not looking for friends in journalism. I'm not looking to climb my career in journalism. And all those other people are. All of them. I've already got my pats on the back in comedy. I'm already successful in my chosen career. I already got all the accolades that I need. I already have that hole inside of me. I got it filled. And all those people with blue checks complimenting Chris Hayes because they want to be him. Because they want to be on MSNBC. That's why. They want to make $30,000 a day and be told what to say. They want to have access to Hillary Clinton and Elizabeth Warren and Jamie Dimon. They want to have access to Tom Perez and AOC. They want access. And they get it. This show would like access, but is not going to compromise the show for it at all. And this show did not become popular because of the kind of guests we have. This show, any success this show has garnered, it's because of people like our point of view, and that they think we're truthful. That they might not agree with what I'm saying, but they know I'm not bullshitting them. And if I get something wrong, it's not because I'm bullshitting them, because it's an honest mistake. And that's why people watch this show. And people watch those other shows because they have access to big name guests because their actual reporting sucks. Because their actual content of their news show is shitty. Okay. Our biggest clips are not of our interviews. Our most popular clips are not of people that we've interviewed. Our most popular clips are us doing a news piece and having a strong point of view and exposing a bullshit or exposing a lie. Those are our strongest news segments, except the one where we made fun of Rachel Maddow. That was us just played up making fun of her. It got over 1 million views. I know. Pretty popular. Hey, this is the part where I tell you where our live shows are, but there aren't any. And then I would tell you to go join our premium, but nobody has a fucking job. So why don't you just enjoy the video?